You've heard of the Human Genome Project, but no one told you what they actually found. They discovered codes that aren't set human, genes with no match on Earth. And the scariest part? Some scientists believe this DNA came from aliens. The evidence was buried, hidden, erased. But now it sits resurfacing. Today, you still see real data and shocking images that were never meant to be seen. Because what if everything you've been told about where you came from was a lie? And what if part of your DNA was never supposed to be there? But what if it sits all true? When the Human Genome Project was completed in 2003, the world thought all mysteries about our origin would be solved. But hidden within the 3 billion pairs of DNA, researchers found a sequence no one could identify, a fragment that matched no known species, not animal, not plant, not even human. This piece was labeled as junk DNA, but nothing could be further from the truth. Inside this junk are patterns that suggest intelligence, as if someone had written a code. Russian biophysicist Vladimir Poponin began to study these sequences and discovered something shocking. Human DNA responds to electromagnetic frequencies, like it's programmable, like someone coded us. But who would do this? And why? What mainstream science won't tell you is that there are countless documented accounts of encounters with beings who claim to have genetically modified humans in ancient times. Many civilizations spoke of gods who made man in their image. Coincidence? Or were the gods actually aliens? In 2003, a shocking publication rocked the scientific world. Our genome contains 223 extra genes. Genes with no evolutionary path, no parallels in any other living organism on Earth. They simply appeared as if they were inserted. These genes are directly linked to human cognitive function, speech, and consciousness. But if they didn't evolve, where did they come from? A Nature journal study suggested a theory called horizontal gene transfer, something common in bacteria but unnatural in humans unless there was external intervention. This anomaly raised alarm bells in the alternative science community. Authors like Zakaria Sitchin claimed these genes were implanted by extraterrestrial beings thousands of years ago. The Anunnaki, gods from the stars who engineered mankind. But why give us those specific genes? In 2013, Harvard scientist Dr. George Church suggested that DNA could be used to store data like a computer drive. That's nothing new, but what few know is that our genome already contains binary-like code with logical sequences and repeat patterns, the kind found in intelligent programming. Russian geneticist Dr. Peter Garjajev took it even further. He claimed DNA responds to words and sound frequencies as if it can hear instructions. In his experiments, DNA could be reprogrammed, just like software. Sounds impossible until you realize it's been documented, and immediately dismissed by mainstream science. If DNA is a code, who's the programmer? Why do we carry locked sequences inside us? And why are these complex codes still dormant? Were we activated before? Or is something coming to wake us up? It sounds insane until you hear the details. Hundreds of people worldwide claim to have been abducted and forced into hybrid breeding programs. One of the most famous cases is Sherry Wild, who described repeated visits from beings using her to create hybrids, almost human, but with unforgettable alien eyes. What's eerie is that these stories are almost identical, across cultures, languages, and decades. Researcher Dr. David Jacobs of Temple University conducted hypnotic regressions on dozens of abductees. They spoke of being used in genetic experiments, of seeing hybrid children that looked human but weren't. They walk among us. They know they're different, and according to some accounts, they have a mission. But why are these beings so obsessed with our DNA? The Bible mentions them. The Sumerians wrote about them. The Hindus called them devas. Civilizations separated by oceans and centuries, all describing beings from the sky who interfered in human evolution. In the book of Genesis, we read about the sons of God mating with the daughters of men, creating a new race, the Nephilim. Sumerian tablets describe the Anunnaki, gods who came from another world and created humans as workers. But they didn't start from scratch. They modified an existing being, changing its DNA. Sound familiar? Because that's exactly what the Human Genome Project quietly hinted at and quickly buried. So if ancient cultures knew, why are we still calling these myths? What if our true history was written, or rewritten, by aliens? Astrobiologist Dr. Richard Hoover, a longtime NASA researcher, published a controversial article in 2011 claiming to have found alien microbes in meteorites. But in a later interview, he went further, suggesting that life on Earth may have been deliberately seeded by an extraterrestrial intelligence. Within days, Hoover was under fire. Articles disappeared. NASA distanced itself. But the damage was done. An insider had confirmed what conspiracy theorists had said for decades. We might be someone's experiment. And Hoover wasn't alone. Francis Crick, the co-discoverer of DNA structure, also supported directed panspermia, the idea that intelligent beings seeded life on Earth on purpose. But who were these cosmic gardeners, and are they coming back? Most people don't know that the Vatican holds the largest classified archive on Earth, over 53 miles of shelves. Among those forbidden texts are rumored documents about heavenly beings altering the human race. One allegedly describes a luminous entity that genetically modified early humans. In 2009, Vatican chief astronomer Jose Gabriel Fun stated publicly that believing in aliens doesn't contradict the Christian faith. He even suggested aliens could be our cosmic brothers who never committed original sin. Strange thing to say, unless you're preparing people for something. Why is the Vatican's telescope, named Lucifer, pointed at the stars? Are they searching for God or watching for something else to return? In 2012, archaeologists in Mexico unearthed a series of elongated skulls. Some were clearly infant-sized, but with shapes that defied all known anatomy. Dubbed the Star Child skulls, they were tested in labs and came back with non-human DNA sequences. Researcher Lloyd Pye, who led the studies, was firm. This is not human, it's not animal, it's something new. He was ridiculed, of course, but kept testing. The more samples came in, the more the patterns repeated. There was no denying it, something else walked the Earth. So who were they? And why were they buried like humans? More importantly, how many more are still out there? During the Cold War, the CIA launched several secret programs. One of them, less known, was called Project Serpo. According to leaks, it involved an exchange of technology with a race called the Ibans. One part of that exchange? Genetic manipulation methods. Some documents claim these beings understood how to reactivate dormant parts of human DNA, particularly the so-called junk regions. They were especially interested in our empathy, emotion, and adaptability, traits they lacked. If these experiments really happened, are we still fully human, or already something more? In 2013, Kazakh researchers Vladimir Sherbak and Maxim Makukov proposed a wild theory that human DNA contains an intelligent mathematical code far too precise to be random. They called it a biological SETI signal, as if someone left a message inside us. They found repeating patterns, ratios, and binary structures that mirrored computer language. Their conclusion? DNA appears to have been deliberately designed, not by gods, but by intelligent extraterrestrial beings. The study was ignored, then removed, but the truth might still be in your blood. Maybe the proof we seek out there has been inside us all along. Scientists agree, 98% of your DNA is inactive. They call it non-coding. But what if that's a lie? What if those regions aren't useless, but encrypted, waiting to be turned on? A built-in system, locked until the right trigger appears. Biologists like Dr. Bruce Lipton suggest DNA can be influenced by thoughts, sound, and environment. But what if it can also be activated artificially by a sound, a frequency, a signal? Was this activation planned? Is it happening now? And who or what holds the key? Across the world, doctors are noticing a strange phenomenon. Children born with never-before-seen DNA mutations. Some have extreme immunity. Others display advanced memory, early speech, and even telepathic traits. They're called indigo, or crystal children by some. But even skeptical neuroscientists admit something is changing. These children's genes show subtle but unprecedented alterations, as if evolution were being rewritten. But who steps rewriting it? And why now? Could these children be the next stage of humanity? In the 1980s, researchers discovered that all modern humans trace their mitochondrial DNA back to one woman, the so-called mitochondrial Eve. She lived around 150,000 years ago. But what shocked scientists is how suddenly she appeared with genetic differences that can't be explained by natural evolution. No clear ancestors, no gradual mutation, just a jump, as if she was introduced. Was she the result of an alien experiment? Or the first successful hybrid? The double helix of DNA looks like two serpents twisted together, and that exact symbol shows up in nearly every ancient culture. The caduceus in Greek medicine, the intertwined snakes in Egyptian and Hindu myth, serpents always tied to knowledge, life, and divine power. What if these were not just metaphors? What if ancient civilizations knew about DNA and were trying to pass the message forward? Is the serpent a signature left by those who created us? Billions are spent scanning galaxies, looking for signs of life out there. But meanwhile, the biggest clue might be in here. In our blood, in our bones, in the anomalies we ignore. Why does no one talk about the 223 foreign genes in us? Why does science dismiss DNA codes as junk? Why does religion fear the idea that we were engineered, not evolved? Maybe they fear the truth. Because if we discover who we really are, we might never be controlled again. What you have heard today isn't set fiction. It sits data, witnesses, suppressed evidence, proof hidden in plain sight. Maybe you'll never see your body the same way again. Maybe you still start to ask, why were we programmed this way? Why is our DNA a code? And why do some beings want us to forget that? The question now isn't is it real? It sets, what will you do with this truth? If this content made sense to you, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this with someone who deserves to know the truth.